Hello, everyone. Linda Usilla Fortune was born on the 11th of December 1938 in St. Lucia. Although she saw herself as Trinidadian, she was born in St. Lucia because hers was a ministerial family and her father was posted at a church in St. Lucia at the time. She came over to the UK in the early 60s and crossed paths again with my dad, Joseph Graham, by chance at Holloway Church. I say again because they'd met in Tobago previously, and it seemed that Linda had made a lasting impression upon Joe. Mum was late for their first date, and Dad had apparently told her that if she was late again, he wouldn't wait. But she was late again, and of course, he did wait. Otherwise, I guess I wouldn't be about. A few months back, I stumbled upon a copy of Mum's CV. Now, I'd never seen Mum's CV before. I knew what she did for a living, of course, but I'd never seen her long list of qualifications and achievements written there in black and white. The colour and depth of her life lay in between the lines, of course. But I found it fascinating to compare. For example, in the CV, Mum became a qualified midwife in 1963. But in 1963, she also married my dad. They married on August the 3rd, and on August the 4th, she gave birth to me. Was she walking down the aisle while pregnant with me? No. I was born a year and a day later. In 1969, according to the CV, Mum was a staff nurse in the paediatric wards at St. Anne's Hospital. Also, in 1969, she gave birth to my sister, Michelle. I still remember holding her in my arms as a 5-year-old, as my mum said to me, "You can choose her name. You can choose between Michelle and..." That was what the other choice sounded like to my 5-year-old ears. I realised many years later that that weird name was Anita. That was Dad's choice, and Michelle was Mum's. So they left the final choice to me. But I hadn't heard of Anita before, and I didn't want my brand new sister to have a weird name. So I looked up at Mum and said, "Michelle." One of my favourite sounds in the world is Mum's laugh. I remember when, as a youth, I got my first credit card. Now, Mum was concerned I'd overspend with this new weapon in my wallet. So she asked me what the credit limit was. £50, I said, disappointed. I still remember the sound of her laughter reverberating around the house. Mum was very astute financially. Her advice and loving generosity were lifesavers for me on numerous occasions. Speak to anyone about my mum, and words such as kind, friendly, helpful, generous, optimistic, and caring come up over and over again. These qualities, coupled with a sharp, insightful intellect, meant she was a born healer. And her exceptional presentation skills led her to naturally be passing on her knowledge to trainee nurses as a teacher. But that didn't stop her continuing to add to her own knowledge, though. She collected qualifications like others collected clothing. In 1999, she gained a master's in complementary and alternative therapies. At a time when alternate therapy was largely seen as a pseudoscience, Mum grabbed it with both hands and became a trailblazer in the field. In 2003, after 40 years of blissful marriage, Dad sadly passed away. That was a difficult time for us all, but especially difficult for Mum. She needed help. And the Lord, in his infinite wisdom, supplied a whole team of helpers. Those helpers were dressed in red and white and go by the name of Arsenal FC. Mum was already a fan, but while grieving for Dad, she poured her passion, positivity and prayers into every game they played. And you know what? Not only did Arsenal win the Premier League, but they didn't lose a single game all season. A feat that's never been repeated. The Arsenal team of that year, as you've heard many times, have ever since been known as the Invincibles. But I'm convinced that Mum's passion, positivity and prayers played a pivotal role in that achievement. So in my eyes, she's also an invincible. I'm a big fan too, as are much of the family. Not that they have much of a choice with me and my mum around. As well as discussing Arsenal with us, she also had a circle of Arsenal friends with whom she would discuss all things Arsenal endlessly. She even sent, as you've heard, she's even sent letters to the manager at the time, Arsene Wenger, offering coaching tips. And she would always get a letter back from Arsene, thanking her for her insights. The chats in her fan circle were so Arsenal-centric that she often knew nothing else about those fellow fans, apart from their love of Arsenal. She once went to a match at Highbury, Arsenal's old stadium, with a friend who, at half-time, was suddenly surrounded by a crowd that clamoured for her autograph. Now, this totally confused Mum. After the crowd had dispersed, Mum said, "What was all that about?" "What was all what about?" replied the friend. "All those people wanting your autograph. Are you famous or something?" At which point the friend said, "Linda, I am on TV in a show called EastEnders. I play Audrey." "Really?" said Mum in that way she could. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought you knew," was the reply. That fellow fan was actress Corinne Skinner-Carter, who did indeed play Audrey Truman in EastEnders back in 2001. The two of them had never discussed anything except Arsenal. Another big passion of Mum's was travel, with family, friends, and often with travel companion Susan Day. Mum managed to travel everywhere. So as you've heard, from Australia to Alaska, from Mexico to Madeira, Mum was there. At home, you can't see the door to Mum's fridge because it's completely covered with souvenir magnets listing her multitude of global adventures. And as you've also heard, everywhere she went, she would always, of course, wear that Arsenal top, striking up conversations worldwide with fellow fans. Last Sunday's matchday programme against Everton contained an obituary for Mum, which reads, "To Linda Graham, forever and invincible. Arsene always thanked you for your coaching letters. Your love for Arsenal is eternal. Rest in peace." Mum, your passion, positivity, and prayers have touched us all in some way. You were a monumental mother, and you put the grand in Grandma. My love for you is eternal.